Let's talk. I mean, obviously, huge week. Pence subpoena, Meadows subpoena. But talk about what future Senator Schiff was just talking about in terms of Meadows in particular.
Yeah, Meadows is a high value witness against Donald Trump. I also happen to believe he is a high value target because all of the crimes that he seems to have committed together or for the benefit of Donald Trump. So we'll see where Jack Smith lands on Meadows, whether he runs him exclusively as a witness and gives him a pass for all his crimes. That would not be my approach. I would charge Mark Meadows and then pressure him, flip him, and develop him as a cooperating witness against Donald Trump. And if I had to bet a buck, I would say that is probably what Jack Smith has his sights set on.
Glenn, you had said this seems to answer the question: is Meadows cooperating? Looks like the answer is no, unless the subpoena is being used as cover. What's your guess on that?
So sometimes, Steph, we would covertly arrest, for example, members of a conspiracy. When I say covertly, we wouldn't do it publicly. We didn't want to alert the organization we were investigating that one of their own had been arrested. We would quietly flip them, and then we would return them to the criminal organization to be our eyes and ears on the inside. So when I say cover, we do things for cover all the time. We don't do it publicly. We want to take advantage of it tactically until the time is right. So maybe Mark Meadows is cooperating. I think it unlikely, but if he is, you might give him a subpoena for cover to make everybody think he's not.
Interesting. Okay. Let's talk about Pence. You said Mike Pence is now fighting his grand jury subpoena. Of course, he already revealed his conversation with Trump in his book, so help me God, which ironically are the last words of the oath he will be administered when he is ordered to testify in a grand jury. you know, we've been talking about it, just this delay tactic that Donald Trump has, I guess, perfected. This is all this is about, right? I mean, this whole his argument is just it's going to take a little longer than just executive privilege to shoot down, isn't it?
Yeah, Steph, Mike Pence is the smallest person in America. I mean, think about it. Donald Trump committed any number of federal crimes by pressuring Mike Pence to violate the law, both the Electoral Count Act and to obstruct Congress's official proceeding of certifying Joe Biden's win. Then, when he wouldn't do it, to Mike Pence's credit, he wouldn't join Donald Trump's conspiracy. Donald Trump then converted him into a victim by basically urging his angry mob to get after him, right?
Yeah.
Because he didn't have the courage to do what was right. So Mike Pence is a witness, Mike Pence is a victim, and yet he still refuses to cooperate. And let me just touch on his claim now. He said, well, I was a member of the executive branch as vice president. That's true. But I was also a member of the legislative branch because on January 6th, I opened the ceremonial envelopes. Well, you know what? And what is he going to say next? I was once called for jury duty, so I'm also a member of the judiciary. Mike Pence's legal argument will fail, and he will be forced to testify.
Yeah. Let's. Can you give me Chairman Schiff also talking about Meadows as it relates to the classified documents crime? Let's listen to that.
Meadows has some very important information about their handling of classified documents. There was a rather mysterious element to Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony of documents being brought over by members of the House Intelligence Committee to the White House. There's other testimony of documents being burned. We don't know what documents those were. We don't know where those documents that were brought over to the White House ended up either, whether any of them made it to Mar-a-Lago. And then, of course, you have this additional information now being reported about digitizing classified information ending up on a laptop. Finally, there may actually be a laptop issue worth investigating.
I mean, you can't write this stuff, right? The Hunter Biden laptop. And now that might be yet another crime, right? That he, electronically disseminated classified information. So Meadows, I mean, he's involved in both of these, isn't he? The classified documents and January 6th.
He is. And, Meadows and Pence are sort of the evidentiary pinnacle of incriminating information against Donald Trump. And I'm so heartened that we are now at a place, Steph, where Jack Smith, the special counsel, has subpoenaed both of them. He's trying to wrestle from both of them. the evidence that they have about Donald Trump's crimes, that tells me, look, I investigated a whole lot of cases, including large-scale conspiracies, not as large as Donald Trump's conspiracy, and I know that we wait until the very end to get after the really high-value witnesses like Pence and Meadows, and that suggests that Jack Smith is moving toward the end game, and I think the end game will look like a whole bunch of indictments against a whole bunch of people.
Yeah. You tweeted, obviously, the other big news, Georgia grand jury believes some of the witnesses who testified about Trump's Georgia state election crimes lied. What does this mean for DA Fani Willis's investigation? Please do tell. The conclusions were there was no fraud and people lied. So what does that mean legally?
Fani Willis is proving to be the strongest, bravest, and most determined of prosecutors out there. And I don't say that to insult other prosecutors, but she's going to go down in history if she does the really difficult but necessary thing, which is indicting a former president for the first time in our nation's history. So the fact that the grand jury believed one or more people lied to them, obviously to cover up the crimes of Donald Trump, is really important, because when somebody lies to the grand jury, that gives prosecutors leverage, because now she can say, I will indict you for perjury. I will indict you for obstructing the grand jury investigation. I will indict you for being an accessory after the fact, because your lie has the effect of helping Donald Trump get away with his crimes. So you are an accessory after the fact. Now she has leverage against those lying witnesses that she didn't have before they lied. But, you know, in that report that was issued, highly redacted though it was, you know, there was one other really important line that hasn't gotten a lot of play, Steph. The grand jury said, we set forth for the court our recommendations on indictments and relevant statutes, and then we have pages of redactions. So what they have announced is they have decided people need to be indicted, and here is the here are the relevant statutes those people violated. So indictments are coming in Georgia. There is almost no doubt indictments are coming in Georgia, and hopefully it is, as Fani Willis told us, imminent.
Yeah. Well, I got to say, Black Knight on Twitter agrees with you. He said if you're a prosecutor in New York or in D.C. or in Jack Smith's office, you have to be looking at Georgia embarrassed that a local DA is going to beat you to charging Trump when you've had more time, more evidence, and more resources. Fani Willis putting everyone to shame. I mean, I have to say I agreed.
And I hope that other prosecutors, federal and state, will now have Fani Willis's back. What do I mean by that? Listen, we don't bring charges just to support prosecutors in other jurisdictions that brought charges against the same target. However, DOJ has the goods. New York has the goods. And if ever there's going to be a time to step up and drop that indictment on Donald Trump, it is after it's first done by Fani Willis, because, you know, she is going to have not only the white hot glare of media attention around the world on her, she's going to have a lot of folks who are going to want to come to Atlanta and kick up dust and perhaps engage in a little bit of violence, because their false god has now finally been criminally indicted.
Well, you keep calling it the maiden legal voyage. Who's going to take the maiden legal voyage? And then you have to hope, you know, that obviously inspires courage in others. You said the special counsel locked in at least 8 secret court battles in Trump investigations headline. You just said, let's hope 8 is enough. That's a good joke for someone my age. But, you know, Barb McQuaid is actually Veruca assaulting this morning. She said Trump and allies are asserting real and imagined privileges, making DOJ fight in court for the evidence. This is why charging a former president takes so long. Just wish DOJ had started these battles sooner. TikTok. I mean. Yeah.
Listen, we have to embrace the pace that Jack Smith has set, because by all accounts, he's going scorched earth, 100 miles an hour in the direction of justice. But it does raise the question, and we're going to have to do an autopsy report on why the Department of Justice didn't do a year ago or 18 months ago what Jack Smith is doing now. We need an answer to that question so we don't fall into this same trap in the future.
You dropped a little tidbit in one of your tweets. You said the Biden-Pence document discoveries actually increase the odds that Trump gets indicted. Don't let Trump and his criminal associates steal your hope. They want you hopeless. Don't give them that satisfaction. Can you explain that?
Yeah, because now we have a trifecta of government officials and former government officials who had documents they shouldn't have had. And we saw two of them, and I'm loath to give Mike Pence credit for anything, but when he does something right, I'm going to give him credit. We see two of them, Biden and Pence, doing exactly what you should do if you find that you have government property that you shouldn't have. You give it back, you alert the appropriate authorities, you invite them in, and you say, do me a favor, have a look around, because I don't want to have anything I'm not supposed to have. When you have two high government officials showing how you deal with that circumstance, and one, Donald Trump, who says, you're not getting them back. I don't care if you subpoena me. I don't care if you search Mar-a-Lago. I will hide some, including on my nightstand, because I need to sleep and there's too much light. Somebody bring me classified folders to block the light, please. Right? Good night, Moon. Good night, classified documents. Listen, I read a lot of bedtime stories to my 5 daughters. Yeah. So we know how it should be done because we have two concrete examples from Pence and Biden about how it should be done. And that, I think, atmospherically increases the odds that Donald Trump has to be held accountable for doing it wrong.
Yeah, because it is legal apples and oranges, right?
Hey all, Glenn Kirschner here. I hope you'll join me on my new audio podcast, Justice Matters. I'll be using my 30 years as a federal prosecutor and Army JAG to unpack, break down, and explain the legal issues of the day, particularly where the legal intersects with the political. Please look for Justice Matters with Glenn Kirschner wherever you generally get your podcasts.